so much better than everyone else on the Mountain Halves that this is your race to get it done.
Ben Finder's hurt feelings. I love it.
You know what they call racing? That's bull.
Keselowski all the way to the wall.
Gonna run you up.
The bumper to the back of the 24.
Oh, he just wrecked it. Bag.
To see the 24 showing his displeasure in how he was raced.
Everybody was doing the exact same thing. Definitely 100% unnecessary and uncalled for.
The last race on the shortest track, but probably the highest emotions. And Chase Elliott comes out of there as, well, maybe a fan favorite because of how he raced and how he reacted to what took place at Martinsville. NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series qualifying presented by Ford Performance from Texas Motor Speedway just around the corner. 8 drivers still with a shot at the championship. Kyle Busch, with his win a week ago, has guaranteed him a spot in the championship 4 at Miami. Now, who will be the other 3 drivers that will join him to try to fight for a championship at season's end? Alongside Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, I'm Rick Allen. The biggest story of the week came from the 24 of Chase Elliott, and I thought it was a almost coming of age, the way he responded and reacted to what took place on the track. It was the first real show of emotion that I think we've seen out of Chase Elliott, as far as it wasn't his fault, and he decided, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself.
Well, I think it was good to see Chase Elliott do that, but what I think is more important is seeing him do that this weekend. Not let what happened last weekend get in his head in the sense of, oh no, we've lost our shot at a championship, and we've seen other drivers do that in the past. So really for me and Chase Elliott, it's what can he do moving forward? Last week happened. He couldn't control what happened last week. So how does that affect you this week? And I think this team is good enough to win races. I think they've been putting themselves in position to win races. This is a call to action in my eyes. And now he just needs to go execute, do well enough to move himself forward, whether that's winning or just running well enough and getting the points he needs.
All right, the 48. Now we come to a round where Jimmie Johnson is arguably the greatest at this round of any driver. He's got great tracks at the Martinsville, Texas, and Phoenix. But he started off Martinsville, not so good, and he started off this weekend already, not so good.
Well, this is, Mike, most sports is a what have you done for me lately type sport. And Martinsville, without a doubt, wasn't very smooth. They came to Texas needing a smooth day, and today was anything but. They had fuel pressure issues in practice. So as the minutes wound down, the 48 continued to try to go on the racetrack and make laps. We talk about this track being new. He has all the stats here. Well, 1 and 2 has been redesigned, so they need track time. It took most of the practice for the 48 to finally get that fuel issue repaired. They did make a couple runs, but neither of those runs were very spectacular. We talked about it, Jeff. This 48 has got to start executing from Friday morning. Today is exactly what they did not need in their quest to make it to Miami and run for that 8th championship.
This qualifying session will be very important for the 48 team to see if they can get on track and get back to the winning ways and the dominance that they have had over the years. Here it's Texas. We're getting ready for qualifying for the Monster Energy Cup Series. And prior to the cars taking on the clock and the racetrack, let's bring in the fastest man on our team, and that would be Otto Bolden. Otto, how are things going?
I'm good. Is that really saying a lot, though? Fastest guy on this team? Anyway, so I'm down here at chassis inspection. The last time when I came to you from Charlotte, the number 20 Camry of Matt Kenseth was sporting a completely different look. This week, of course, these are exciting times for us here at NBC because we are getting ready for just being under 100 days until the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games. And on your screen now, you see the painstaking day-long process of transforming that car from the Tide Pods outfit to what it will wear this week, and that is Team USA number 20. So
Very
you
Olympic.
look for the number 20 car.
I like that, Otto.
It's very, very nice.
Well, every time you hear that music, Otto, I'm guessing that you feel like you're definitely going to be speaking because you cover the Olympics so much now?
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough to do Winter and Summer Olympic Games, so a big thrill for everybody involved in the Olympic Games.
We're looking forward to that, and thanks for, again, joining our team, giving us a little different perspective as we see Dale Earnhardt Jr. waiting to climb in to his car. Quite a few drivers are hanging out as we get ready for this qualifying session. Parker.
Well, Rick, I found a driver that is hanging out, and he's pretty cool to hang out with. Clint Boyer here. Finished third last weekend. Pretty good run for you guys. Does that get some momentum going here? You're 21st in practice. What are you expecting in this qualifying session?
We've really had fast cars for about the last month. We've just been plagued with, bad luck. Some of that was our doings. Had some trouble on pit road. Kind of got you behind, dig yourself out. Everybody knows that story. Usually doesn't end very well, and it didn't. But breath of fresh air to get a good run last week at Martinsville, one of my favorite tracks that we go to. Texas, man. It's so much fun to come down here. Rush Truck Centers, Rusty and all his bunches here, fresh off their Houston Astros win. So he's pumped up and expecting big things out of us. And it's all about qualifying right now. It's all about using this foot.
That's your right foot.
And not so much this foot.
That's really technical analysis. Thank you for that. How much do you want to use the right foot more than the left foot?
None, actually. Your brain does not want to do that, and that's the problem. You have to overcome that and make yourself do that and hold the throttle down and go for it.
So you just got to use the right foot. Which of these ends you can use the right foot more, 3 and 4?
Yeah, it really is crazy how much faster 3 and 4 is than it was before. 1 and 2, they made a lot of changes down there, and still haven't figured my way out down there. It's so weird getting off into 1. You're like, I think I'm right. Missed it. Do over, and it is tricky getting through into. It's all about the entrance there to get through the middle and get pointed for that run.
Well, Kelly, there you have it. You just got to use that right foot more than the left foot to go faster at Texas.
Yeah, why do I get the feeling it's not quite that simple, Parker? Well, if pit road's feeling a little bit sparse, that's because we have a number of cars back here in the garage area still going through inspection, and including a couple of the playoff drivers. Behind me, you'll see Martin Truex Jr., his 78 car that still needs to go through another time. Hey, Matt Kenseth. Inside the building, both the 48 and 24 Hendrick Motorsports cars of Chase Elliott and Jimmy Johnson, they're still waiting to go through too. I've seen both those drivers hanging out inside that tech area. They're waiting for their cars to get cleared. It was kind of funny. I was asking Alan Gustafson, crew chief on the 24, how long it takes to go through the inspection process, and he said that's kind of like asking how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop, Rick.
Well, that's a good analogy there. Steve, I do want to ask you, when did inspection open for these drivers? I mean, they had the first practice. When can they start to go through inspection?
Well, they can go in as soon as practice ends, but they're required to be in inspection an hour after first practice. So this process takes a while, and I've yet to confirm this with NASCAR, but I would assume all of these cars are going through for the second time. There's definitely enough time to push everybody through once. Where trouble begins is when cars fail the first time and have to go back through inspection. And now NASCAR makes you go back through the entire process, so the line stacks up even more.
Jeff, we heard Clint just talking about the differences in this racetrack, and 1 and 2 has been the big change. So how do you now attack more or less a new racetrack, because 1 and 2 is completely different from 3 and 4?
Well, first of all, the reason it's different is because the racetrack reconfigured, and when they did it, this is what they did. They took banking out of turns 1 and 2. So the 2016 fall race, 175 mile an hour in 1 and 2, right in the middle of the corner. And now 155 miles an hour, 20 miles per hour difference. And that's all because of the amount of banking that they took out of it. But when they did it, what they did was they made the racetrack wider. So when Clint Boyer said, I have a hard time finding my way through here, that's part of the reason. Because the racetrack is so much wider, because to take banking away from it, they essentially had to go from the bottom of the outside wall all the way down, taking banking out. So the apron got very, very short. But now when you enter turn 1, it is crazy wide. It's more racetrack there than I think I've ever seen in a mile and a half. And I think just picking out your point of reference and where do you put the car, that's much harder on a wide racetrack.
Parker, I believe you have caught up with a driver who is guaranteed a spot in the championship 4.
That is Kyle Busch, the most recent winner in the Cup Series, winning at Martinsville last week. And Kyle, Clint Boyer gave me some really expert advice about getting around here. He said you got to use your right foot more than your left foot. But we were just talking about how maybe down in 1 and 2, you might have to use that brake here in qualifying.
You certainly got to use some brake, that's for sure. But trying to find that magic touch of how much is certainly the key. And being able to carry maximum speed that you can through the flatter corner, because you know you're going to be able to carry about whatever you can give it down in 3 and 4. So this place has certainly changed, and it's different. And it's now kind of it's unique racetrack, and you look at it from the $40,000 view, and as the crow flies, and it looks identical to many of the other mile and a halves. But when you get down and on the ground and you try to push that right pedal down, sometimes you got to figure out how hard to hold it down.
Guys, he was 8th fastest in practice. Hope to find a little speed in that 18 car to challenge for the pole.
All right, so we've talked a lot about turns 1 and 2. Let's dive a little deeper into that.
Well, we have some great animation to really show exactly what the racetrack did. So, this 2017 repave, the track used to be 24 degrees. Now it's 20 degrees. So taking 2 degrees of banking out of the racetrack took a tremendous amount of speed away from it.
Yeah, well, and to get those 4 degrees out of the racetrack, how did they do it? You mentioned it. They did it by widening the surface and narrowing the apron. So we're from 58 feet to a 78-foot racing surface. The apron got much narrower. And it's just, 78 feet is a very, very wide racetrack, especially for a mile and a half. So just the look as you approach turn 1 is totally different than anything these drivers have seen before.
And I think, too, you heard Clint Boyer say how much faster 3 and 4 is than it used to be. Well, it is no faster than it used to be. Like, if you look at the numbers, it's really no faster. The difference is that you're going so much slower in 1 and 2 that now, if you think about it, you're not carrying as much speed down the back straightaway because 1 and 2 is slow. So now for the driver, he knows the percentage of throttle that he had versus what he used to have. And the reason he has more throttle is because he's not going as quick into turn 1 as into turn 3 as he used to be. So you can drive in deeper. Now you have all that banking that you don't have down there. You can get in the gas sooner. So it's just huge difference between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Well, and the radius, the track's so wide, Rick, that you don't follow the radius of the corner or the dotted lines. I can see how a driver kind of gets lost. Right there, you see you got to turn across 2 dotted lines. We're heading into turn 3, you kind of almost follow the lines.
When we come back, it's time for Cars on the Track. This qualifying session gets underway. Xfinity final practice just ended a few minutes ago, and it ended a little sooner than everyone thought because of this. The 21 of Daniel Hemrick snaps loose and slams into the turn 4 wall.
Rick, it seemed to be clear a mechanical failure of some sort on the rear suspension. You see the rear end housing basically move inside the race car like it shouldn't, causing that accident. And then look at the track cleanup, Jeff. A lot of speedy drive put down to get the track back in condition. And those Xfinity cars never went back on the track. So that's what it looks like there. It seems like the start of that is out of the groove. But down by that monster sign right at the bottom of the speedy drive, it seems like the racing groove gets up close to that speedy drive.
Yeah, it was 19 minutes left in practice when this happened, and they never got on the, like you said, they never got back on the racetrack. And I'm sure NASCAR has cleaned that off very well, and it's probably just staining, but you'd be a little reluctant to be the first one to drive through it.
Oh, yeah, no, Daniel, just jump back in this 27. You go about 50 miles an hour faster down the straightaways than this one, it should be fine.
Congratulations to Paul and Jennifer Menard as they welcome their second child, Bo Luca, to the family. And that is why Daniel Hemrick is behind the wheel of the 27 right now. Paul is with the family still. And so Daniel Hemrick is subbing for him. He did in the practice earlier. He's going to for this qualifying session. Daniel Hemrick, a busy weekend. He's also racing for a championship in the Xfinity Series.
See the clock, it's almost down to 18 minutes. So the track has been open now for almost 2 minutes, and this 27 will be the first car to go out.
Well, how about this? He was the last car on the track in the Xfinity practice, and now he's going to be the first car on the track in Cup qualifying.
Well, if he is going to indeed get out of the car and Paul Menard's going to get in the car, then they're going to start last anyway.
That's right.
And so, what's the point? Why go out there and put this car in a difficult situation? So I'm not so sure that I'm going to expect to see a full-blown qualifying. You 100% just go get you some qualifying lap, just because the risk isn't worth there's no really reward.
Pit selection, probably about only thing that he's shooting for here.
I'd say on this racetrack, I don't think that's a huge issue with timelines the way they are now.
So, Jeff, the interesting thing as the 27 comes in is I was going to wonder if this was a strategy move. So we talk a lot about the racetrack and the reconfiguration. But what we haven't talked about, because it doesn't appear this way, is it's a repave. This is only the second race. I say it doesn't appear this way because doesn't it look weathered? It kind of has that faded look, and there's some patches. But this is only the second Cup race on this new surface. And when that happens, Rick, Goodyear's kind of forced to bring a very durable tire. Sometimes that tire doesn't have the most amount of grip when it's cold and brand new like it would at most other racetracks. Here, actually, a little bit of time on the tire and especially some heat makes a difference. So you wonder if the 27 went out, ran a half lap, put a little temp in the tires, and now it will come in and make up a plan for a qualifying run.
He didn't officially come back by the finish line, so he doesn't have a lap in qualifying. He did go out, got up to speed. But you see him backing that one back into the stall that they were in earlier. Let's go back down trackside to Kelly.
And back here in the garage, actually, Rick, where we still have a few of the playoff drivers waiting to go through tech inspection yet again. You can see the 11 of Denny Hamlin with the 4 of Kevin Harvick behind him, and a couple cars back is the 24 of Chase Elliott. I know last time I reported the 24 was going through the second time, so this appears to be the third time. And now that we're down to, what, 16 minutes left in this session, we still have a number of these guys that have a lot on the line this weekend, still waiting for their chance to get out there.
So I'm not going to say I'm the strongest guy in Texas Motor Speedway on math, but as I look at that line and you figure it takes, what, 45 seconds a car times 10 or 12 cars, simple math alone would say I am not sure if all of these cars are going to make it through. We see right there Darian Grubb, crew chief on the 5. Big announcement this week that he'll be full-time crew chief, what will become the car number 24 with William Byron. Don't get caught up in the car numbers and the teams because they're all swapping around, but big adjustment for Darian Grubb, full-time back on top of the pit box into 2018.
Ray Black Jr. is the first one to actually register a time in this qualifying session. He goes 28.861 seconds, a little over 187 mile per hour average speed. In practice earlier, we saw the Cup cars at 199 miles an hour average speed, so we're expecting quite a pickup.
I think what's interesting too, as this clock just sits here and ticks and winds itself down, is remember we saw a lot of cars go out the second time in practice and run faster on these tires. So this clock is ticking, and what's going to happen is when people realize they need to run quicker, they're going to have less time to go make that second lap. So the last 3 or 4 minutes of this qualifying session could get very chaotic. I understand why you don't want to be the first guy to go, but if I'm somebody that was right on the verge, thinking about, let's say Jimmy Johnson, he was 19th fastest in practice. Joey Logano, 22nd. Maybe you go ahead and make this run. You go ahead and run, put a lap on them, make a change to your car, and go back and make a second lap, because a lot of cars went faster the second time. So would be a consideration.
So there's some cars sitting on pit road just waiting as that clock ticks a little bit closer to 14 minutes to go. The big story a week ago was a major announcement in the Cup Series as far as a new full-time driver. And Parker, I believe you've caught up with him.
That I have, Rick. Darrell Wallace Jr. down here being an interested spectator, just watching things with me in this qualifying session. You're saying you're not envying them right now, though, because that's pretty sketchy out there in that racetrack. It's pretty fast.
It was sketchy in the spring, I know that. But I'm definitely jealous. I want to be driving, of course, but out here in Texas, we had a big announcement today for the 43 car. Announced our sponsor for the Daytona 500. Click and Close by Mid-Mortgage America, so excited to have them on. A new partner in the sports, which is big. But right here, just standing in old YRB's pit stall. A couple roles I could need to fill in for him in case he needs some lessons learned, or his bodyguard, especially after last week.
What are you going to teach him?
Can't tell you my secrets, bud.
That's true. You got to keep those secrets here. You're saving them for 2018, guys. Darrell Wallace Jr. down here watching his buddy Ryan Blaney from his pit.
Well, and that right there is why I'm so excited to see Darrell Wallace Jr. in the Cup side, because he has that personality. He's going to become a fan favorite. See, like, I mean, he's the guy that I think, you got to tell the whole story, right? He was in the top 5 in points, and his deal shut down out from underneath him. Roush Fenway closes up their Xfinity car program. So, here's the guy that was going to run for Xfinity Championship, and early in the season it goes away. He has 6 Truck Series wins, and then he had that chance to fill in. Unfortunately for Eric Almirola, when his back was injured, I thought he did a nice job. And I just think he's the type of personality that full-time in the Cup Series is going to be fun to watch.
So the car is still sitting on pit road. Nobody taking on the 1.5 miles here at Texas. Let's check back in with Otto Bolden.
So, guys, this is my first time seeing this racetrack in person, but I have seen it on the simulator. That's the bad news, because I did not do well in the simulator, and one of the reasons why, and I frustrated Alex Bowman greatly because he was my coach. One of the reasons why is because in my original sport, when I see lines, I try to stay within them. I looked on the simulator and I saw all these lines which have nothing to do with the line around the race course. So my question to you is, why all the lines here in Texas?
Jeff, why don't you answer that one?
It's a good question. To be honest with you, Otto, I've always wondered why there's lines. And I would tell you that some drivers, they really use those lines to just kind of set up where they want to be. So, you know, we talk about hitting your marks. Drivers make that comment all the time, hitting your marks. So that means putting your car where it needs to be. And without those lines on the racetrack, there's really no reference. Everything's just, you know, black asphalt or concrete, and it's hard to know where you are on the racetrack. So the lines really are a reference for the drivers and where they want the car to be. It's really not a guideline on where you're supposed to be from a rule standpoint. It's just for the drivers to
So David Reagan has decided that he will take on the track. Is this a surprise to you that this is just the second car? This is the second car that has gone, and 9 minutes have already clicked off of the clock.
I'm a little surprised. I thought there were some cars that had a tremendous amount of speed over the 24th position. You look at someone like the 78 of Martin Truex Jr., who's rolling down pit road now. He had almost a half a second over 24th. I would have thought he would have gone out, put a lap up, see if it was good enough, and be prepared, Jeff, as you mentioned, to run a second time if needed. But just, you know, it's easier once there's a time on the board to kind of sit back and wait.
I scratch my head because I think all this is doing is putting them closer to the next time they have to go out onto the track, because the later you go in this session, that's the closer you're going to go out in the next session.
But here, that's an advantage because the temperature will stay in the tires. So normally when you talk about cooling your tires for grip at this repave, I think if you could come out in, cool the engine as quick as possible and go right back out, you would run even faster. The worn tires on this surface are going to be an advantage. The disadvantage is, much like we saw what happened to Daniel Hemrick in the Xfinity, if that happens while you're out making your qualifying run, your time could be thrown away and you just might not have time for another run.
That's David Starr. David, a Texas native out of Houston, Texas. I'm sure he was celebrating after Houston was able to win the World Series just a couple days ago. And so David Starr on his first lap, 30.579. Not sure the time he was looking for, as McMurray now has taken to the track.
Well, we're going to find out now where the racetrack stands. Jamie was 11th fastest in practice, so we're watching this. All of pit road is watching this to see how fast he can run, and it'll give you a really good idea where the racetrack is.
It's about the lowest we've seen anyone run through 1 and 2.
I was thinking the same thing, Rick. I expected him to be a few feet off that white line, but he went all the way down to the white line. He had run a 27:30 in practice. This looks like it's going to be reasonably close to that. 45, a touch slower.
So 196.714 miles per hour average speed.
I got the 96 covered, Rick, and someone else is going to have to run the other 100.
I think one issue also is that as I look out the window where we are, I see Chase Elliott's car just now rolling into the inspection area. So I think for these cars on the racetrack or on pit road as well is trying to figure out how many cars you're going to have to qualify against. Maybe not everybody's going to make it out of Tech. Still 4 cars, the 3 cars rather, the 4, 11, and 24. I see also the 20.
Hamlin just came out of Tech, and it looks as though he's jumping into the car. As we see Ryan Blaney.
He was the fastest in practice.
And we discussed that strategy by Daniel Hemrick. As you see Ryan Blaney, you see on the bottom right of your screen the 20 cent of a Hemrick back on the racetrack. So I think that was a plan to run a half a lap and put some temperature in the tires.
27:32 is the mark now. Blaney has posted it. But again, the goal here, be the fastest 24. You don't have to be the fastest out there. You just got to be in the top 24.
24th is as good as first. You're going to get a chance to run again in the second round.
Riding along with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And Daniel Hemrick, the speed he just ran, a 27:55 in practice, they would have put him in the top 24.
Oof. A lot of time out of throttle right there for the 88. Still not killing them, losing a little bit of time, but not as much.
But I think that's a great example of how different these corners are. If you were see this corner, I mean, how much throttle time he was in, and and he still lost time. So that shows you quite clearly how different the corners are. He gave up a lot of time at 1 and 2, but still 3rd fastest.
The good news is that lap time right there should easily get him in the top 24.
Austin Dillon, and he's got the Olympic rings.
So soon as I said that, Jeff, I looked at my time chart. I do think it's going to get into the top 24. I might retract my easily statement, but I think Earnhardt Jr. won't have to run again. With 6.5 minutes left, I just don't see, you know, the time. And how about Jimmy Johnson? This is the car that we all have our eyes on. You talked about it right at the top of the show. Disappointment at Martinsville, then come here, struggle mechanically in practice. Only really got, what would you say, 2 real runs in?
2.
So this right here, this time instantly is looking good for the 48 if he can continue this pace back. This lap should be easy for the 48 to feel good enough to get into the second round.
Second quickest at a 27:42.
And you said it. That should get them in easily, but I think that makes them feel really good. Like they made 2 runs, they made some changes, they came out, and obviously as Eric Jones goes to the top of the board, but obviously 48 made some big gains.
27:14 now is the time Eric Jones has posted. As we see Kyle Busch, he goes second quickest at 27.22. That will be fine is the words over the radio for him, that they feel comfortable that will stay in the top 24. Kyle Larson in the 42 on the track, as is Brad Keselowski in the 2. Keselowski trending in the green compared to Eric Jones. We're still comparing to the number 1 time until 24 drivers have taken to the track, and with only 5 minutes to go, it's going to have to pick up quickly.
And Rick, there are some contenders, some big names in the garage area that I would have had in the top 24. And as I continue, we show you the action on the racetrack. Well, I get to cheat and look out the window and look at the garage area. It's a lot of movement in a lot of directions. So I think some will make it out to qualify, but there will be some cars that do not get a chance to put a lap in this session.
Clint Boyer. Let's go to Kelly.
Rick, down here and back in the garage, I think the 11 and 4 both got cleared, so they should be hustling to get out there. The 24 is going through the last phase of inspection. Chase Elliott standing by, eagerly awaiting, and we'll see here in any minute now if they actually get cleared.
They're having to resituate onto the pads there. You saw the crew jump to that. So Kurt Busch goes to the top of the chart now at 199.269 miles per hour. That's his average speed around this track.
Well, and Jeff, you talked about it was time for the 24 to recover, to go back to him and be in inspection. You know, he make it out here, maybe fine and may get a chance, but this is a lot of stress on this young man not to have a lot of time to think about what he's going to have to do. Under 4 minutes right now. You see he's strapping the helmet on. The team's going to get the car, make final preparations. Important that the team doesn't overlook something. Very easy to forget something at this point. Make sure you get your tire pressure set correctly. So he needs to get out there and get a lap in. He should be able to make the top 24, but this is cutting it awful close.
Well, and also the spotter right now, he's got to start, you know, with limited time. He's going to have to find a hole for Chase Elliott to get this car into. So this is a stressful situation for all involved.
I tell you, the direction they're putting.
Yeah, they're going the wrong way.
Yeah. They took a left, and I thought that was a good sign for the 24, but I could tell as now Chase Elliott takes his helmet off. I think that's confirmation, Kelly, that this 24 car is not going to go on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're going the wrong direction for sure. And we'll see if we can catch up to Chase.
He was one of the 9 cars here in the spring that didn't even get a lap. Started 33rd in that race, finished 9th, but 26 points behind. Emotional letdown with that accident at Martinsville, getting wrecked by Denny Hamlin late in that running. This is just one more kind of brick on the wall, right? I mean, it's just one more thing that's got to be just tough for this young man to try to overcome. And now we still have cars on the racetrack trying to make the top 24. And look at the names that this might open up the door for. You have DeBenedetto, 23rd, McDowell, 22nd, Buscher, 19th, Castle in 17th, Reagan. All these cars, Rick, now have a chance perhaps to move on.
There's only 2.5 minutes left, and we have
at least 10
cars, 10, 11, 12 cars that have not hit the racetrack. Some of those aren't going to because they haven't passed Tech.
Kevin Harvick now on the track.
Well, that was pretty good.
All right, good job.
P1.
It took him very little time. Kelly.
Right, well, one driver that we know will not be out there is Chase Elliott in the 24 car. Just couldn't get through Tech. So you know what you face now on Sunday, starting from the back. How do you get this done?
Yeah, we'll just have to kind of play it by ear, see what happens. We had I thought, a decent car today throughout race practice and swapped over and had really drove pretty good in qualifying trim. I was kind of excited about qualifying, which you know, qualifying hasn't been a real strong suit for me, but looking forward to Sunday. And, you know, again, we know we got to start in the back, so we'll try to have a good practice tomorrow and get it driving good and go from there.
How do you kind of get the, I don't know, the mojo back or momentum back after a downer of last week and a downer today?
Well, you know, Jimmy started in the back here in the spring, and it worked out fine for him. So I think if you have your car driving good and you do the right things all day, you know, we see it every weekend. Guys faced with adversity throughout the race get, you know, caught speeding on pit road, have a penalty on pit road, go to the back, and it seems like the guys that are good enough, you see them again in your mirror in about a run and a half. So I think it's definitely doable if we all do our part tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for your time, Chase. Rick?
Well, Chase is right. In about a run and a half, you can get there, but the first stage is on lap 85. So if you don't get that caution in between those breaks, you go green that whole time, it's going to be very difficult to get in that top 10 and get some points. So,
and he needs
and it's all about points at this point. It is about points and having a chance to win a race. Now, Jimmy Johnson won this race, but he had a problem. He won this race. You heard him say it, but you know, it's not, if you win the race, all is good, but it's more than just getting a good finish. You also have to get as many points as possible.
Well, Chase was saying all the right things, but Sunday will be a test for the 21-year-old. Very simply, when you go to the back, it doesn't matter the car, it doesn't matter the strategy. At that point, it lands solely on the driver's shoulders to get you through the first 40 or 50 laps, making all the right decisions coming through traffic. So while he said all of the right things, it's still early in the weekend. The pressure will mount as Sunday comes. You know, Allen and Chase are going to have to put their heads together and have a good plan. Ryan Blaney did it. The blueprint's out there. He did it. He stayed calm and moved back through the pack. But Chase Elliott's going to have to find some of that same sort of approach as we see McDowell up to the 23rd position.
McDowell jumps up to 23rd after being below the cut line. There are still 7 cars that have not taken a time as the red flag is displayed, and that ends round 1. So 7 cars didn't make it out onto the racetrack for this qualifying session. Interesting. Harvick was fastest. We'll see if he can continue that through the next 2 rounds. Complete. That means that 25 through 40, those positions are set. And you'll see down toward the bottom of this list, DNS, they did not even get on the track for a lap in this qualifying session, and it includes the playoff driver, Chase Elliott, as well as all the way down this list to 40th starting position. And one of the names that was on that list of DNS is standing by with Kelly. It's Joey Logano.
It is Joey Logano, a former winner here, but you've got quite a task of you ahead on Sunday. Does it help at all, the company that you'll be keeping down there of drivers who didn't make a start? Or, excuse me, a qualifying run?
Oh, I guess I don't start as far back, but it still doesn't really matter. Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. You know, we want to come here and win. The AAA is our sponsor. They're a sponsor in the race, and we want to have a good run for them, and we still will. We just got to have a little bit of work cut out in front of us. So, you know, this is a place that there's really no advantages of starting in the back. It's not like you get fresher tires, that really means anything here, and it's a pretty challenging place to pass, especially early in the race as the track's not very wide yet. So the challenge is pretty big in front of us, but I got the team that's up for it, and we'll keep battling and hopefully get something.
All right, thank you, Joey. Rick?
Joey, again, one of 7 drivers that didn't get out onto the track. But you look back to last week, a cut tire spins him around, and that actually affects his teammate. Brad Keselowski was out in front. This cut tire, everyone knew it was going to go, well, everyone expected it to go down. And when it did, it brought out a caution. That means that the 2 had to fight through another restart.
Yeah, and you know, it's easy. Todd Gordon, he had some comments on SiriusXM on Tuesday that he wishes he could go back, do it again. He would have come to pit road. Very easy to say, always easy to judge as you can see the highlights of the race, what ended up happening to Brad Keselowski. But listen, I'm going to defend Todd Gordon, the crew chief of the 22. In the heat of the moment, he's not there to help the 2 of Brad Keselowski. He's there to crew chief the 22. And at Martinsville, with the length of that pit road and the slow speed of that pit road and the slow speed on the racetrack, a flat tire is not the worst thing that can happen. The 22 finished the best that they could by having a flat and spinning out. While it did cost his teammate a chance at the win, Jeff, you can't put all of that on the shoulder of a team. He might work at Penske, but he has his own car to worry about.
Yeah, remember the year they've had.
Yeah.
You know, they were battling for a win. They were in the position to have a shot at a win, and then, yes, they had a tire rub, and yes, you said it. We all kind of knew that it was going to go down, but what if the caution comes out? and they get to pit, and you get a string of restarts. Like I understand it was a long shot, but I don't blame Todd Gordon for not quitting. I don't blame Todd Gordon for just saying, you know what, we got to do this. He's a fighter. He's a racer. He was hoping the best, and it didn't work out.
And now, once again, the first round of qualifying is complete. Round 2. They'll be fighting to be in the top 12. That's coming up next. Play from Texas Motor Speedway. And one of the first takers was the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. He'll be making his final start here at Texas Motor Speedway. This was the site of his first Monster Energy Cup Series win. Very memorable one for Dale Jr. 27:35 for Dale Jr. Denny Hamlin is next out onto the clock.
We always wanted to know what we thought would happen. Well, that is about a 10th quicker for Dale Jr. 46 in the first round, 35 in the second.
And look at the lap that Hamlin's putting together here. If he can maintain this, track record could be in jeopardy. And he's still gaining. Very close to a track record. 27 flat, 27.010.
Well, that's a pickup of almost 2/10 from the first round. So if you look at someone like Kevin Harvick, who was the fastest in the first round, if he has anywhere near that sort of pickup, then he will easily break the track record.
Yeah, that first round, the pressure got taken off because so many cars did not make, qualifying attempts. So you really didn't see people have to go out and run twice. We saw Clint Boyer go run twice, but we didn't really understand the pickup. But in this round, clearly, you're going to be able to run quicker if you have to go out a second time. So, that's the only concern I have. Why everybody's still waiting? Because this round's going to be much more difficult than the first round.
You race drivers continue to amaze me. This racetrack, they've taken turns 1 and 2 and made that turn flatter. And for some reason, somehow, you guys are finding more speed around this racetrack.
And we know it's not at that end of the racetrack. We can watch on the telemetry. They are running slower through turns 1 and 2. But because this fresh pavement has so much grip once they get heat in the tires, this end of the racetrack that Ryan Blaney is going through right now, it's not wide open, Jeff, but it's uncomfortably close to wide open. The amount of time out of throttle is barely at all.
And you can see Ryan Blaney lost all of his time to Denny Hamlin in 1 and 2. He kind of broke even with him in 3 and 4, but you saw Blaney's car moving around a lot, just not the grip in 1 and 2. That's where he lost the time.
Blaney goes second quickest at 27.138. Then it's Stenhouse Jr., Earnhardt Jr., and Daniel Hemrick. Those are the 5 that have been on the track.
So, Jeff, you pointed out, and I really think, we talk about a racetrack and how crew chief would break it down. I looked at this racetrack and its new asymmetry and 1 and 2 being so flat. That 1 and 2 is the key to this racetrack.
That's right.
I think 3 and 4 with the banking, the width between a good car and a bad car, Rick, is probably a half a tenth, maybe a tenth of a second. We're going to see 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second between cars. That's all from turns 1 and 2, the more difficult corner, which is why Eddie Gossage, Marcus Smith, and the people of Texas Motor Speedway designed it like that. They wanted to make the track more difficult, and that's what they've done in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, so the question is, as these drivers and teams spend more time on the racetrack and they start making 1 and 2 better, how much does that hurt 3 and 4? And so, now you're going to have cars that are really good in 1 and 2 and cars that aren't good in 3 and 4 and vice versa. Now you have passing opportunities because the track is different on either end. Teams are going to be better on one guy can be really good in 1 and 2 and the other guy be good in 3 and 4, and it could create some very good racing. It helped at Kentucky. I mean, the repave at Kentucky was a really good race for a repave, so the theory has been proven to be correct.
And listen, these cars, everybody we follow, Martin Truex Jr. is the perfect example. You mentioned it. He's about 5/100ths off from Denny Hamlin. He left turn 2 5/100ths off.
Right.
So Denny Hamlin has got through the more difficult end of the racetrack, head and shoulders above all of these other cars. So as you watch people make their run, watch. They get down to turn 1, Rick, and it goes right to the red. Denny Hamlin really got through that end of the racetrack.
So Keselowski now 6th fastest. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to make the top 12. You have Harvick left to go. You have Eric Jones that ran fast. You have Johnson. You have several cars. So that's going to be close for Keselowski.
Eric Jones now on the clock.
I was taking a little glance. I couldn't tell if I saw maybe a little tire smoke off the left rear of the 77. I don't expect to see it here in 1 and 2 with the increased banking in 3 and 4. Let's take a little look. I couldn't tell if it was speedy dry or tire smoke. So right there again, you see the smoke off the left rear. So the 24 degrees in 3 and 4 versus the 20 in 1 and 2, that makes a difference. The car travels more. That's why we saw that smoke, but apparently not holding him under 27-second lap.
200 miles an hour, his average speed. The track record is 26.985. He just went 26.997. Jimmy Johnson, 8th quickest at a 27.158.
Keselowski now 9th. Still Harvick to go.
Now comparing to 12th, you see Danica Patrick and Landon Castle on the track.
Danica Patrick right here is coming down the middle of the backstretch and trending the right way. She definitely had a good turns 1 and 2. Now the fast end of the racetrack. Can she carry the speed? Lost it getting in. Does that mean it'll come back on corner exit? It's trying to.
A little bit. And 13th for Danica Patrick. Still to go, Kevin Harvick, A.J. Allmendinger, David Ray. You see Harvick now just on the clock.
Listen. Right back to the throttle. He's out of the throttle for a long time. You heard him coasting, then he went back to the throttle. And now as he drives into turn 3, listen to the difference. Never all the way out of the throttle. He breathed it just a little bit, probably 50-60% throttle, but never all the way out of it.
And I love that. I love that we're asking these drivers to drive 2 ends of the racetrack that are so drastically different.
Brakes in 1 and 2.
Maybe
and
not qualifying, but out of the gas lot, yeah. In the race, for sure.
Yeah, 3 and 4, it's almost wide open. Unbelievable.
I can tell you right now, it's close enough wide open, Rick, that I want no part of it.
I will not even take a pace car ride with Jeff on this racetrack because that would probably scare me. I probably wouldn't take a pace car ride with Parker either. Parker?
No, that'd be terrible. I've hit a lot of walls around this place. But no, nonetheless, just coming across the radio, there was Kevin Harvick as he finished that lap, and I couldn't hear his onboard sounds, but he said pedaling hard. So I guess that might have been where he lost some of that time if he had to pedal off the motor.
Yeah, and you can hear it, Jeff. You mentioned even 3 and 4 where he was never out of the gas, way up by the wall and exit. You hear him breathe it one time. Well, he didn't want to do that. That would be pedaling it because the car didn't have, apparently, the handling characteristics he wants. Eric Almirola, though, a nice job getting off turn 2 with some momentum. You see gaining almost a 1/10 of a second.
He turned way early into turn 3. He actually got his left sides below the line. I'm not so sure that's what he wanted to do. I think it turned better than he thought it was going to. Actually got it below the line. Had a very good 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's probably the most disappointing 3 and 4 we've seen as far as time given up.
Now all but Michael McDowell have been out on the track.
And you mentioned about the strategy of when to go. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is sitting on pit road because he went so early, which you were hoping more cars would do, Jeff. So the 17 has a chance to rerun, much like the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's already posted a time in this session.
Yeah, and he's Dale Earnhardt Jr. He stopped. He did not get through 1 and 2 well at all, so he just shut it down.
Minute 15 to go in round 2. And Daniel Hemrick behind the wheel of the 27, subbing for Paul Menard.
So let's see, Michael McDowell, this 95 team continues to impress me, continues to exceed the expectations I've set for this team. I think their expectations are much higher, and they're living up to them, Jeff. I think that's great when a race team does that, trying to continue it here today. So far, a little off on this lap. We'll see if he can pick some speed up at the other end of the track.
And Keselowski has rolled down to the end of pit road in position to make a run if he needs to, but he'd have to be rolling pretty quickly if he's going to get it in.
Austin Dillon was trending the right way, looked a little high on exit, had to get out of the gas, I would assume. Another car carrying that awesome Olympic paint scheme with showed it on the 20, also on the 3 of Austin Dillon.
So I think Keselowski's going to be okay right here. He's still 10th, and I don't see anybody on the racetrack that's going to beat him. Certainly not 2 cars that are going to beat him. So he's in good shape. Now every one of the playoff contenders is in the top 12, with the exception of Chase Elliott, who did not make a run because he couldn't get through tech. So, you know, that's really the key, Rick, is that Chase Elliott isn't penalized if all the other guys don't do well, but all the other guys are inside the top 12, so that makes his work that much more difficult.
Casey Kane, this clock will still count, or this lap will still count. He started his lap before the clock ended. And so as he goes across the finish line, it's 19th quickest for Casey Kane. That will not move him into round 3. So Eric Jones, the only driver to break 200 miles an hour as far as an average speed at Texas Motor Speedway in this qualifying session. He was fastest in round 2. We'll see if anybody can break the track record in round 3. It's NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series qualifying presented by Ford Performance from Texas Motor Speedway. Round 2 is complete, and just before this qualifying session began, it was Xfinity Series final practice. That's Daniel Hemrick in the 21, slamming into the outside wall in turn 4. Well, he's also sub-driving for Paul Menard, who is with his family right now. They just had their second child, Bo Luca. And we see that Daniel Hemrick got that 27 into the second round. It ended up 21st in this qualifying session. And Jamie McMurray was the first car just outside of the top 12. And Parker's with it.
Right, Rick, and he made 2 attempts at it, was not able to get it done. What'd you need in that one car to maybe get into the last round?
Well, the car feels really fast. Our Cessna McDonald's Chevy, I thought drove really well. It's just that everybody's car is fast, and everyone's car feels pretty good. 1 and 2, when I looked at the Dartfish, you know, it's what we kind of relate to of where we gain or lose speed. It looked like I lost a lot of time down there. It didn't feel bad, so I wasn't really worried about that end as much as maybe being a little too tight in turns 3 and 4. But still a really good effort. We were kind of on the right side of that in the first round with being like 1,000s or 2,000 or hundreds off, and just on the wrong side of it here. But yeah, we should be good. We ran really good here in the spring, and our mile-and-a-half program has been really solid the last, well, it's been good all year, but I feel like the last Charlotte and Kansas, we had great cars, so I look forward to Sunday. Hot. It's going to be hot.
Definitely going to be hot, guys. And he actually told me that in that second run, he knew it just didn't have the grip. The tires didn't have the grip, so it's something to note for some of these other teams. That second run does not have the grip.
Yeah, and he mentioned Dartfish. Dartfish is a tool that all the teams use. This is something we had for 2015, and these 2 cars aren't on the track at the same time. This is digitally done. They film each car, then they overlay them on top of each other so teams can compare. So you can see right here, you know, when you watch this, there's no doubt where you got beat. You see the 4 car turned in a little bit early, beat him into the corner, then the car on the outside, he went down the back straightaway better. So this is a great tool that the drivers and the teams can use, just trying to help evaluate why they lost speed.
Rick, technology's killed a lot of good theories.
And it really shows where one guy's better than the other.
I hate that.
Round 3 is coming up next. Qualifying from Texas Motor Speedway. Let's go back into the garage and Otto Golden.
So, guys, of course, I don't have the option in the Olympic Games of not going through qualifying. So with all of those did not starts in qualifying, it made me ask the question, what do these drivers do then if you don't have the psychology of getting out here and going through qualifying and just having to go just into practice and then into the race? Does that minimize your chances maybe of actually winning the race? Is it possible to win this race from the very back?
Yeah, Otto, it is possible to win this race. I think the biggest issue is that, you know, with stage points, that's the biggest issue. In 500 miles, you can get there. But can you get there in 85 laps, the end of stage 1? And we know how many, you know, the advantage of points are. So Chase Elliott, that's what he's looking at, lap 85. That's all he cares about right now, and he knows he is a deficit compared to the people he's racing for points.
Answering Otto's question a little more specifically, Jimmy Johnson did it in April because they had to change a tire because of a spin in qualifying, and he went to the very back to start the race. And so he started from the back and went on to win that race.
Rick, you mentioned the average speed over 200 miles an hour that last round by Eric Jones. Ricky Stenhouse well over 200 miles an hour in the front stretch lap time last time through. And you mentioned brake. You're absolutely right. You see right there 205. That last lap through 1 and 2, there was absolutely some brake pressure applied. You can see the lights turn red at the bottom of the screen. So even in qualifying, that flat corner, very difficult. They're having to use the brake to get the car slowed down enough.
That 200-mile-an-hour lap that we saw out of Eric Jones in round 2, if you were watching, which we hope you are, you witnessed history, because that's only the second time ever anyone has gone over 200 miles per hour on an average at a 1.5-mile track. And the first time was when Tony Stewart did it, when he set the track record here.
Well, this is going to be easily a track record right here. He's going to be well down in the 26s. It looks like Denny Hamlin will have the new track record at Texas.
Oh, yes, he does. 26.917, 200.617 miles per hour. That's just the third time ever in the history of this sport that we have seen a driver average over 200 miles an hour on a 1.5 mile track.
And we've talked a lot this week about Chase Elliott and his approach to how to bounce back from the issue at Martinsville with Denny Hamlin. But how about Denny Hamlin?
That's exactly right.
You know, he issued an apology right away. You know, I'm not condoning what he did. I think he wishes if he could, he'd go back and take it back, but he can't. So he has to come back out here and look all these other drivers in the eyes. He has to go look Chase Elliott in the eyes and race against them on the racetrack. So this has to be an emotional uptick for this 11 car as well.
Look at this lap Jimmy Johnson has going right now. He got into turn 1 really good, but just could not hold the speed in the middle of 1 and 2. Now he's almost 2/10 off getting into turn 3. Looked good when he took off. A lot of movement in the back of the car.
How about Blaney was in the green for probably about the same amount of time until he got through 1.
It's what we saw in the last round with Denny Hamlin. His time through 1 and 2 is outstanding. So everyone has lost time to him relatively in 1 and 2. Then they come down to this end of the racetrack. Some gain, some lose. So that's where Eric Jones was the difference maker. He was able to keep up with Denny Hamlin in 1 and 2.
Right now, playoff drivers have the top 6 spots. Hamlin, Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, and Jimmy Johnson. We'll see if Keselowski can jump up into that group.
So on the right side of your screen, even Eric Jones that time lost time to Denny Hamlin in 1 and 2. Can he make it back at this end of the racetrack and continue to see, well, that left rear tire continue to smoke and rub? Looked clean that time through.
Keselowski
enough for the pole, but still third.
Keselowski was 7th until Eric Jones went to 3rd. So now Eric Jones, the only non-playoff driver inside of the top 8.
Look at this. Kurt Busch.
And a new track record. 26.877.
That's Tony Gibson on the radio. Today's his birthday. Big day for Tony Gibson. What a birthday present. Kurt Busch goes out and so far has given him the pole position at Texas. We'll see if it holds on with just a few seconds left.
A new track record. 200.915 miles per hour. The fastest ever on a 1.5 mile track.
You talked about the racetrack taking banking away from 1 and 2 and the amazement that they can run this fast. But remember, this is the super low downforce package as well. This is not anywhere near the amount of downforce that Tony Stewart had here in 2014.
So there you go. That's the question. Why does NASCAR change the rules? Why does Goodyear keep changing the tires? Why? Because these teams keep finding speed. What does that mean? They find more horsepower. They find more downforce. They engineer the setups to go through the corners better. These teams continue to go faster even within the same rules. And today, it was Kurt Busch.
The 39-year-old has just captured his 22nd career pole, and he does it in record-setting fashion. A new track record for Texas Motor Speedway and the fastest anyone has ever run at a 1.5 mile track in a stock car.
They're fired up, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And they should be. What an amazing last round. 5 drivers, all over 200 miles per hour for their average speed.
Yeah, we didn't know if we would see a new track record, and all 5 of those that you just mentioned, Rick, were below the track record. Well, below on lap time, right. Above on speed. The old crew chief in me, it's hard to break an old.
They were better.
They were better.
They were better than the old track record. That's right. What a lap. Turned by Kurt Busch. And there's Tony Gibson, old man.
Always real serious, Tony. I love that laugh.
You know, we talk about overcoming stuff. Well, think about Kurt Busch. He's not in the playoffs. What is he here to do? He's here to win races. End of story. And he doesn't have his deal done yet for next year. He does not know what car he's driving next year. Doesn't know if he's going to be back with this team. There's his teammate Kevin Harvick. This is a big day for Kurt Busch.
Let's hear from him. Kelly's down there.
Yes, he's just having to get a quick congratulations there from his teammate Kevin Harvick, who also had a very solid qualifying effort. But For you, Kurt Busch, congratulations. You get the pole. You do it in record fashion, and you do it on the old man's birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, old man. Tony Gibson, all these guys. We just kept getting tighter and tighter through a lot of our rounds this year. And so they asked me, you want to do wedge? You want to do track bar? You want to do air pressure? I said D, all the above. So we just freed it up, and the Ford stuck. I mean, so it's really good on a track record type pace to get a pole here at Texas, and just to have all the guys working hard still and pushing. There was something special coming into today, and I think it was all Gibson's birthday.
Well, we know you're out of the playoffs, obviously, but still a lot that you guys, I'm sure, want to accomplish these last three. What kind of a feather in the cap does this give the 41 team?
Yeah, I mean, we've just had bad luck, and we just have to get ahead of it and position ourselves like a step ahead instead of being a step behind. So today's a great step forward, and we'll have good track position. So thanks to Haas Automation, Monster Energy, Ford, and all of our associates.
Congratulations.
Let's take a look at where the top 4 drivers will line up for Sunday's race. Kurt Busch with the pole. Harvick was top 3. Blaney and Keselowski also inside of the top 10. This is the medicine that you want when you come off of something like this from a week ago.
Kurt was having a good run, and see coming off turn 4. Big impact. Basically head on.
That safer barrier absorbed a little, but pretty hard hit there by the 41 team. And
Look at it, he stood in the gas. The thing got pointed toward the start-finish line. He just stood in the gas and tried to get all he could.
So it is a happy day for the 41 team and a celebratory fist pump for Kurt Busch. But on the other end, that one got away from Denny Hamlin. NBCSN. Let's go to Kelly. She caught up with Denny Hamlin.
Well, look for a minute there like Denny Hamlin was going to be sitting on the pole, but you just got outdid there at the end by Kurt Busch. Just give us a sense of anywhere on this track you thought maybe you left some time out there?
Yeah, I've been a little bit slow to the field in 3 and 4 all day, really. And I got better that last run, but just wasn't enough. My 1 and 2 has been really good. Just can't seem to fully commit as much as I need to 3 and 4. But needless to say, that was one I really wanted pretty bad.
Yeah, it seems like this track, this qualifying with the reconfiguration has just gotten even tougher.
It has. I mean, it just takes such a commitment level. I mean, the tires are shaking, the car's rattling. You know, the averaging 200 miles an hour on any racetrack is incredible. I never thought I'd see it at the 2-mile Michigan, much less a mile and a half here at Texas. So, you know, it takes, you got to man up to run these laps, and we just were a little bit shy. But proud of the whole FedEx Camry team for giving me something and really improving throughout the day and giving me something I could shoot for it there at the end with.
Denny, after the drama of last week and a spot to Miami on the line, give us a sense of how big it is to be starting on the front row Sunday.
It's huge. It's huge. It's track position at this track is just unmatched. It's like anywhere you run speeds like this, you know, aerodynamics is pretty much everything. And so, you know, having that clean air, at least for that first corner, is going to be very important.
All right, Denny Hamlin, the top qualifying playoff contender.
Martin Truex Jr. qualifies 7th here at Texas. Martin, what did you need there to maybe go up there and challenge full? I saw you talking to your crew chief Cole there, making a lot of motions. What was missing?
Yeah, we were just a little too tight qualifying there. We've been pretty fast all day, but we could never get 2 corners kind of matched up. So we've been struggling a little bit in 1 and 2, and that's kind of was the theme throughout qualifying. So just missed it a little bit, but we qualified here 7th last time too, and we were really disappointed in that. But we raced really well, so looking forward to getting out there tomorrow and getting this Bass Pro Camry tuned up.
You have been one of the best cars all season on the mile and a half. So you mentioned the 2 differences in the corners. What is it about the 2? Do you have to compromise on this racetrack to make it work the whole way around because they're so different?
You know, today, this day and age, and this series, as tough as it is, you got to get it all right. I mean, you can't compromise. If you're off in one corner, we'll eat you alive. So that's basically what happened to us today. And, you know, it's the difference between 1st and 7th. So hopefully we'll get it right tomorrow for Sunday, and we'll go get them.
That's how close it is in the Cup Series. You can't have anything off if you want to challenge at the front.
And a great battle will ensue tomorrow. That's an interesting I wouldn't even know if I'd call that a bike. It's a unicycle that you ride inside the wheel. Denny Hamlin talked about the speeds. We'll talk about it on which starts at 2 p.m. Let's go to Parker.
Ryan Blaney qualifies 8th here at Texas. Ryan, what'd you miss there in that final round to maybe go up there and challenge for the pole?
Yeah, just really tight all qualifying. Something we didn't have in practice. I thought we were actually really good in practice, and I think the track cooled off and got a little tighter. So it stinks we didn't hit it quite right. We have to start on the outside, which is another bad thing about it. But hopefully our race car was decent today, I thought, in race trim, and hopefully we can get a little bit better feel for it tomorrow during a couple practices and see what we can do.
You were really fast here in the spring. You led 148 laps, one of the best cars here. Does this car feel similar? Do you feel like you've improved on that from what you had in the spring, or has the track changed too much?
I thought I was pretty similar in practice today, and we lost that in qualifying. So hopefully we can get it back to practice, and I thought we were just as good, if not maybe a little bit better.
Ryan Blaney and his 21 team hoping to bring some of that speed from the spring, go up there and challenge the victory.
And Parker used the word speed. We saw something here today that we've never seen before. A lap over 200 miles an hour, almost 201 mile an hour average on a 1.5 mile track. These speeds are getting, is it ludicrous? Is that the speed we're seeing now?
Remember, they told them they had to go slower down there.
Yeah.
And they took a bunch of downforce away from them, and then they go out and break the track record. So you just never know. Steve talked about it earlier that, teams are constantly working, trying to make their stuff better. And, what if NASCAR did take downforce off?
Right.
How fast would they go? So it's a constant evolution of the sport.
Well, this was cars running by themselves. So let's slow them down a mile an hour or two. The high 190s out there in a pack trying to race at a very difficult racetrack that's only become more difficult with that reshaping of turns 1 and 2. But I think because of that difficult corner, there's going to be options, Jeff. Even at these speeds, I expect that corner to widen out. We're going to see some side-by-side racing down there. Strategy is still going to be important. Try to get up front, maintain that track position. At those speeds, aerodynamics are king.
The speed off of turn 4 is going to be unbelievable. Then you're going to have to get in turn 1 and stop. That in race trim, so it's going to be fun to watch.
And just so much on the line, Rick.
Right.
I mean, the playoffs. After this is only one more race, then we're off to the championship 4 in Miami.
Everyone's searching for points. A huge day, Saturday. Take a look at all of the activity that will be taking place on track. You won't